This is Long Shots, VSiN's premier golf betting podcast. Here's Matt Brown, Wes Reynolds, and Kelley Bydlon.
Hey, it is Long Shots Golf Betting Podcast here on the VSiN Podcast Network. I'm Matt Brown. That is Kelley Bydlon. That is Wes Reynolds, and we are here for another golf breakdown, the Charles Schwab Challenge. We're not going to call it the Open or the thing. It's a challenge, and there's going to be a challenge here in this one. Guys, let's talk a little bit about last week. We were wondering if the course renovations would make the course harder for the best golfers in the world. The answer was a resounding no. There are guys I had to look up that I'd never heard of that were shooting 20 under on this tournament, and this goes to show. I will say it again. If you're a loyal listener, you're like, Matt, can you give it up? No, I'm not. I'm going to say it every time. These are all the best golfers you've ever seen in your whole life, and the only thing that is the differentiator for them is the difficulty of the course, and nothing proves it more than what we see right here as Kelley throws it up. Just everybody 15 under or better on this tournament. Just absolutely wild. And, you know, at the end of the day, I picked the wrong former good golfer that was not playing well. I had Finau there at T6 at 135-1, who still loses by 10 strokes even after shooting 20 under, as Wyndham Clark takes it down at 30 under. Siwoo Kim 27, professional loser Siwoo Kim, I might say. Scottie Scheffler at 25 under is an outright third. Jackson Suber 23 under, outright four, and Keith Mitchell sitting there outright five at 22 under. So, Wes, I will start with you. And, you know, in a lot of times we can look at tournaments like this where everybody's making birdies and figure out a pretty easy differentiator. This one for Wyndham Clark happened to be his putter. He was 132nd on tour entering this tournament and then just putted the absolute lights out. And with that, ends up pulling away and winning this thing by multiple strokes. As Kelley pulls up the profile right here, you will not see this again this year from Wyndham Clark, as he gained 12 and a half strokes putting in this tournament to win the Byron Nelson. He drove it all over the place a lot of the times, and it didn't matter whenever you're just making every single putt from like 50 feet, it seemed like. So Wyndham Clark back in the winner circle.
Yeah, certainly is. And you mentioned Charles Schwab Challenge this week. Last week, certainly at Craig Ranch. Didn't prove to be a challenge, but I guess $25 million renovation. The winning score, by the way, did drop from 31 under to 30 under. So, you know, yeah, I guess you got to crawl before you can walk, Lanny Watkins and his design team, as everybody pretty much tore that course up. And, you know, I even said it on the pod here last week and in the column up at VSiN.com. It's kind of like I'll believe it when I see it. Now, I expected maybe it was going to be mid-20s was going to win this thing, and it was 30 under par. I had one guy that was kind of in the mix in the not Scotty market going into the final round. That was Steven Yeager, and he was like the only one at over par or at even when everybody else is 5 or 6 under on the round. So it's like, well, there goes that. You know, let's just see what we can kind of get out of the placement market. So small losing week for me on the CJ Cup Byron Nelson. But no, this course is way too easy for these guys. And like you say, these are the best players in the world. It's like, what are you going to do to really make it more difficult unless you just have a bunch of trees everywhere and a bunch of thick, rough, and narrow fairways? And none of that to be found necessarily there at TPC Craig Ranch in Dallas.
Kelley, we were not in love with this tournament heading in because, again, we didn't know exactly what the renovations were or weren't going to do for these guys. I think now we at least know heading into next year. We'll just handicap it the exact same way that we have in the past. You won't birdie makers, and certainly at the very least, you do have guys that were birdie makers at the top of the leaderboard. And I joke when I say professional loser Siwoo Kim, but I mean, like, Siwoo Kim hasn't won in forever. I mean, like, Siwoo Kim is like, he is your placement market guy through and through, but like, he just does not win. And you look at this with another top 5 for Scottie Scheffler. And, you know, this is why I have said that what Scottie did last year is one of the more impressive things that you will ever see in golf, and why I was even, you know, mentioning him in the same breath as Tiger Woods, because Kelley, look at this leaderboard. I mean, Scottie Scheffler went 25 under. He lost by 5 strokes. He wasn't even second. He was third because another guy beat him. And when he went 25 under after 4 rounds of golf, like the talent pool and the young influx of talent and all of that we have in golf right now it's the deepest it has ever been by far, by margin in this. And like, you can go out and shoot 25 under through 4 rounds of golf and lose by 5 strokes.
Yeah, he didn't have a round worse than 66. Like, it's incredible. I think there's a couple things there. Yes, you're right. And then you often bring this up of where do you want to bet Scottie Scheffler at? And we often talk about betting these golfers like Scheffler, but the high-end golfers, but specifically Scheffler, at the tougher courses, tougher events where they can separate themselves, right? This is a course where guys can go out and make birdies. And look, Wyndham Clark, Siwoo Kim, Keith Mitchell, Tony Finau, right? Tom Hoagie on there. Quality golfers that can go out there and make a bunch of birdies on an easy course, no matter what the state of their game is like. So that's what we saw. I think it just reiterates what we often say about Scheffler on the tougher courses and focusing in on him there.
Yeah, it's true. And you look here, I mean, the other names that at least did show, and this is something to maybe at least keep in mind when we do get to other easier courses, right? Zach Boshu showed up here 20 under. Max Grazerman, who has a tough time really a lot on these tougher courses these days, but he shows up. Johnny Kiefer, who's been up and down in his young career here. Jackson Suber, another young guy who was able to go out and tear up an easy course. I mean, hell, Blades Brown, T14 right there at 19 years of age. And so, Wes, the only thing I'm really taking from this tournament is, because I'm not going to sit here and try to say Wyndham Clark's back. Again, like, you gain 12 strokes putting, you're going to win the tournament. Like, it's all there is to, like, you're going to win a tournament if you gain 12 strokes putting. But I think the only thing I'm taking from this is some of these easier courses and some of these ones that we think could be birdie fests. There are some birdie makers out there that on the younger, kind of lesser known variety that are going to be able to handle these type courses. Maybe not the big boy courses quite yet, but they can handle these courses. These might be good, like, placement market guys for us or head-to-head guys for us and stuff like that we can at least target on these easier tracks.
Yeah, 100%. And that's kind of an angle that you have to play a little bit now with this PGA Tour schedule, of which some leaked out, I guess, earlier today. It hasn't officially, by the way, been released. But you're going to get these guys that are like playing signature events all the time. And then you're going to see him finish like 42nd or 43rd. And they're playing against the best competition in the world, number one. And the signature events, by and large, are on more classical, more difficult courses. So you get a little bit of a drop in class, like the CJ Cup, Byron Nelson, like you're going to get a little bit this week with the Charles Schwab Challenge at Colonial, even though Colonial is certainly more of a challenging course than I think Craig Ranch was. But that's what you got to do when you monitor this form. Not all the form lines are the same. And these are events, I think, where you can buy on the dip with some of these longer bomb, especially these younger up-and-coming players.
Absolutely. So it's something, Kelley, I made note of just in my model. I kind of went back in and highlighted some guys, just where they were in the model and whether it played out or not on the course. And, I mean, it didn't compete, but, like, I was on Blades Brown because he was a big time birdie maker, right? Well, I mean, he went out and kind of showed that he can do it on these, like, lesser courses and stuff and whatever. So it's like, there are things that we can learn from these tournaments that even when we don't hit an outright, that maybe we can take with us moving forward in our kind of golf betting journey here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I think, we talked about it a little bit. I think we were all kind of hovering over some of the younger guys, up and comers here last week. And I that's the type of course that they can break out on, and you almost need to see them break out on, right? Like, if you got to step up and be able to, if you're going to step up and play with the big guys, you got to be able to do it on a course like this. So I think like positive to see that out of a Kiefer, out of a Blades Brown, right? Like, these guys do belong up here, and maybe get to a tougher course, you can see what happens. It's interesting. I am very happy, though, that it is 2 weeks in a row, and we don't ever really encounter this when we do this podcast, 2 weeks in a row of just whiffs on kind of what we thought the golf course was going to be, or what I thought the golf course was going to be, although I headed in with a lot of unknowns last week. Excited that we have a course we are very familiar with this week.
Yeah, absolutely. We will get Wes's breakdown here in a second. Not a star-studded field. Ludvig Åberg is your short shot here in this one. You're going to find him sub 10-1, so that kind of lets you know what field we're dealing with here. Second on the odds board is going to be either Russell Henley or Justin Thomas. And then a couple of ticks down, you're going to find Rickie Fowler, Ben Griffin, Bob McIntyre, and then a pretty big jump to JJ Spaun and everybody beyond that. And, this is just, again, like Wes said, the way the schedule is played out and the way this is, guys are picking and choosing. Sometimes there's sponsor obligations they got to play and whatever and all of that. But it's certainly not a top heavy tournament. And with that, we get a sub 10-1, and is it worth betting? We will find out, I think, with all of our models, no matter how you kind of diced it, considering who is in this tournament. You're going to find all these shorter guys towards the top of your models, and it's more like navigating how you want to go about it when you're building your card this week. But there are some intriguing names that we have bet in the past. JJ Spaun seems to be maybe starting to figure things out a little bit. Alex Smalley, Akshay Bhatia, Keegan's in this, Keith Mitchell, Harry Hall, Rio Hasatsune, all of those guys are sitting there at about 45 or less in the betting market. So
kind of says a lot, though, that Scotty and Jordan Spieth are not here this week, who regularly play this, and obviously based in Dallas. Like, they know the history of this event going back to the 1940s, and not here because of that schedule.
Guys, when we come back, we will get the breakdown of the course and start to talk about some of the stuff that we find important as we put our models together. It is Long Shots here on VSiN. Welcome back to Long Shots here on VSiN. It is Matt Brown. It is Kelley Bydlon. It is Wes Reynolds. And we are heading over to the Charles Schwab challenge. I always want to say Charles Schwab. Charles Schwab.
You're a big Charles Schwartzel fan. That's
no, seriously. So Charles Schwab challenge over in Dallas. As always, if you are a VSiN Pro subscriber, you can go ahead and you can see Wes's full breakdown of the tournament. But Wes, as we're here on the pod and people watching over on VSiN, and by the way, if it's over on the YouTube channel or the audio side, appreciate it. Please hit that subscribe button. We do appreciate the support there on that one. What are we looking at here as we head to Colonial?
Yeah, Colonial Country Club in Fort Worth, Texas, just 5 minutes northwest of TCU. Of course, a major university down there. Originally designed in the late 1930s, John Bredemus and Perry Maxwell has had several different renovations. The most recent design, of course, who does all the renovations now? It's Gil Hansen, Jim Wagner, who did this a couple years ago. It's known a lot as Hogan's Alley in honor of Ben Hogan, who did win 5 times here on his home track. Classical par 70 tree line, 72.89. It did play more difficult in 2024, the first year of the redesign. The average was like 0.82 over par, 5th most difficult. Last year is kind of still on the maybe more difficult side, but 0.25 was the average round here last year. What usually makes it difficult is you got pretty tight fairways here, less than 30 yards on average, so pretty narrow. Small greens as well, about 5,000 square feet, and they're bentgrass, so they will get faster on the weekend, 12.5 on the stimp. Rough in fairways are actually Bermuda, while the greens are bent. 2.5, 3 inches on the rough. So it's not necessarily a course you can just overpower. You tee off in a different direction after every hole. It's a much tighter course off the tee than you've seen on some of the other original Maxwell designs, one of which being Southern Hills, which hosted the PGA up there in Tulsa, I believe in 2022. Little bit of water here, 4 water hazards on 6 holes, only 64 bunkers. That was kind of the notable difference in the Hans redesign, is that there are less bunkers here. 12 of the 18 holes are dog legs, but shot maker course, precision course. You start out pretty easy if you look at the scorecard. You open with the par 5 on number 1, then you have a short par 4. So you might look at that app on Tuesday if you played somebody like, oh man, we're 2 under through 2. You know, like 2 of the easier holes on the course. Then you get to what's called the horrible horseshoe, 3 to 5. And those are 3 of the toughest holes on the layout. One of the more difficult stretches actually on tour. I mean, might be a little bit down from like the bear trap or the snake pit that we see on the Florida swing, but pretty difficult. And you probably are going to give one of those shots back. Some of the trees, and I mentioned some of the bunkers were moved. So they wanted to kind of lighten up the course because the trees actually really darken this place. And Now it allows the wind to play more of a factor because you will see a variance in scoring here where you'll get single digits under par, and then some years you'll get kind of middle teens. I think it's going to be more middle teens this time because doesn't look like there's a lot of wind, at least in the initial forecast. And we did get some rain in Fort Worth leading up to this. So might get some softer conditions, even though this plays firm and fast. If you're looking at some comparisons, I think some of the shorter ball striker type courses you see on tour, Harbor Town for the RBC Heritage, Sedgefield for the Wyndham, Innisbrook, where the Valspar is played, Pebble, Southern Hills, another Maxwell design, TPC Sawgrass, Southwind in Memphis for the FedEx St. Jude. Those are kind of the carryovers, I think, for this course. And guys that have played well on those courses have also played well here at Colonial.
Kelley, as you started looking at this and digging in on the course, you look back again, we do have some history here, looking back on former stuff like that. What did you change much with your thoughts of the course? Did you eyeball anything differently than you have in years past?
Yeah, I think interesting you say that because I did tweak the model a bit this year. Adjusted for, good putters have really panned out well here. And it's going to be, I think putting is going, like we just talked about it with Wyndham Clark, what he did a week ago. Putting is usually the big time separator, but we usually talk about how it's hard to find courses where that's extremely predictive. And I think this is becoming one of them. So I did kind of tweak some of the putting stats a little bit. Did think that was important this year, but Wes mainly hit everything. I mean, look, I think one of the tightest combinations as far as fairways, how tight the fairways are with small greens that you're hitting into. So yeah, definitely accuracy off the tee and going to need solid approach games. And this is not a tough place to scramble at, but just because the greens are small, you're going to have to. So I think that's something to incorporate this week as well. But yeah, really the putting was kind of the main thing that I did kind of take a deeper look at this time around.
Yeah, one of the things I guess I didn't, we'll talk about the stats, but listen, we always give shout outs, and I'll go ahead and do it now since we're going to be talking about what we put in our models and stuff, leaning on the hard work of others and stuff. And Rick Gaiman over at his site added actually updated his course key stats page. And if you guys are not over at Rick Run Good, you can click on that, where it basically shows you just how these holes play depending on what you do with them off of the tee. And so what I did notice here is if you're in the fairway, this course can be gettable, right? And every hole but one has an in the fairway average just under par, whereas only hole 5 plays over par even if you're in the fairway. And so that did change for me a little bit. So there, like Kelley, you can see right there, every hole except for hole number 5 plays under a little bit under par if you can be in the fairway here. So it did change me as well from my modeling standpoint as to kind of the people that I was looking at. So just a little bit there. And again, hat tip to all the people that we use when we put this stuff together, Rick being one of them, of course, the guys over at BetSperts and all the other people, Data Golf and stuff like that for all that they do in making this a little bit easier for all of us. And so, all right, Kelley, so we are going to make some models here. So what did you throw in?
Yeah, again, kind of the only thing I major league tweaked was some of the putting stuff, but otherwise it's accuracy off the tee, whether you're doing good drives or, fairway stats. I think we all collectively kind of like to lean on good drives a little bit more, but I don't want to speak for everybody, but there was a couple people I ran into this week where it's amazing sometimes how big of a difference you can find ranks between fairway, just pure accuracy, and good drives gained. So I usually do a blend of them, but I do lean a little bit more on good drives here. As Wes mentioned, we're dealing with 2.5 inches rough here, Bermuda rough. So you're going to get some flyers out of that Bermuda rough. You want to be careful of that, but it's not over, super, super thick like we see in majors or anything like that. Heavy approach stats for me, strokes gained approach. I did a little opportunities gained. I did a little greens and regulation even. And then sprinkled some of the proximity buckets to a 125 to 200, since a lot of guys are going to be kind of hitting from the same areas. Also, I stretched it out to 200. If you're just looking at straight proximity stats, I don't know that you need to go that far. I always I always do that. I bring this up often, but it kind of brings in the par threes into play. If you stretch it out to the 175 and 200, so I kind of do that as my little par three score. This is a tough group of par threes. So did that for proximity. I did just do straight up par four scoring. We're on a par 70 this week, so a couple more par fours out there than usual. Scrambling. And then strokes gained putting overall, I did a little bit on bent. I did 3 putt avoidance, and I did bogey avoidance, which we've kind of talked about that before. I think it's a good catch-all stat for bogey avoidance, where it takes a little bit of scrambling into play, a little bit of struggles on the greens, right? Kind of put that all into one stat. So that's pretty much everything I did this week. And look, I think this is, what is this, 5th most predictive annual course. So yeah, I think you should look a little bit at course history here, or some of the comp courses that Wes mentioned.
Wes, got a couple of minutes here. Did your model differ from Kelley's there?
Not a ton. I did not use as the proximity. I'm kind of, I'm coming around to you, Matt, where you've kind of skewed away a little bit from that proximity, and I stuck with it for a while, but I don't think it's really been working for me. It could. I mean,
I don't think it's very predictive, man.
Yeah.
I really don't. Outside of like the 200 plus or whatever, like I just don't think it's very predictive.
I think it's good to like look at, but maybe you don't have to include. But approach, obviously, I think is a good place to start here. 6th most difficult on the tour to gain on approach. The way I included greens in regulation was ball striking. And ball striking, by the way, they come up with that number with total driving plus greens in regulation rank. And I thought, well, Ben Hogan's considered one of the greatest ball strikers in the history of the game, and his legacy is pretty much what this event is about. So why not include ball striking? Also did good drive percentage as well, or good drives gained. Bogey avoidance, I did a little birdie or better too, even though this is usually not a birdie fest, but I think you're going to get easier scoring conditions with little to no wind this week, and maybe it'll play a little soft with that rain. And then I did strokes gained bent grass, and then did a little bit of scrambling, even though it's a little bit easier here. The greens are small, so you are going to hit good shots that are going to miss these greens, and you're going to have to scramble a little bit. So included that, but pretty meat and potatoes basic model, I think, this week. Since we're so familiar with this course, I don't think you really need to go all that knee deep in the weeds like you would some other weeks.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. Nothing really for me to add there, guys. I can give you some reasoning once we get to our plays as to why I ended up on the guys that I did, but I think our models are all going to be pretty the same. Like we said, we know a lot about this course, and so when we do that, we're going to end up on the same stuff. When we come back, we will get to just what those models said. Welcome back to Long Shots, Golf Betting Podcast here on the VSiN Podcast Network, and also now on VSiN as well. So hello, appreciate you guys watching here.
Yeah. We all dressed up for you today. Look at Wes has got a cool hat on. Matt just got out of like a business meeting. I threw on a flannel because I was cold. You don't see us all dressed like this very often.
Yeah, I mean, I was on air. I was.
You're looking sharp, bro.
You had enough time to change after being on air. I just, bam, boom. And then, next thing you know, here we go. So there we go. And we know what the course is going to look like, at least what we think the course is going to look like.
Yeah.
Stats that matter. We throw that into the model like it is, and then it spits out some stuff, and we decide whether these are guys we want to play or not. So, Wes, as usual, we will start with you. How does your card look here this week?
Yeah, really, looking at the top of the board, I think you have the right favorite, but Ludvig Åberg, who obviously is in great form, I wasn't going to play him at single digits. I just
think we're all there.
Yeah, like he's got to show that he can close out one of these things. The form is obviously no joke, and he's been playing really good golf, but the fact is he's just not getting over the top necessarily.
I'll miss out at 9-1.
Yeah,
okay? I mean,
that was kind of the same
to miss out at 9-1.
That was the same thing because somebody was telling me, man, you should have played Siwoo. And it's like, man, I'm not going to play him at 12-1.
Yeah.
Like, if he beats me, he beats me. Oh, well. But I did start and kind of not too far down, I guess mid-range usually, even though these are the shorter prices. Justin Thomas, 25-1, who I've been kind of buying in that maybe he's starting his way back. He missed that cut first time after the surgery at the Arnold Palmer, and then he was 8th at the Players, 4th 2 weeks ago at the PGA, best went and finished in a major since he won the PGA, by the way, at Southern Hills, which is a design correlation here to this week in 2022. Best finish was 10th here in 2020, but he was second after 54 holes. If you look at where Thomas has won, his last 4 victories have all been on kind of similar type or similar length courses. Southwind, TPC Sawgrass, Harbor Town, Southern Hills, obviously a little bit longer, but that's also a Hans renovation, just like Colonial is. Kind of sneaking back into form, second in this field for putting and strokes gained short game over the last 8 rounds. I know short sample size, but I think Justin Thomas, like, he's getting closer to being ready to win, and maybe this will be the week where he gets the tartan jacket as I wear the tartan or plaid hat. We couldn't decide what to determine, so we'll call it both this week. So trying to do the plaid double like he did at Harbor Town a couple of years ago, because plaid jackets given out to both winners of those tournaments. I
like it, Wes. I'm going to jump in real quick if that's okay. I have a sneaking suspicion that my friend Matt Brown is on Justin Thomas as well. Yay or nay? Is this a pod play or should I shut up?
No. Okay. Well, then there it is. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I added him too. And I do think there's a story here, right? Because we had the whole putter switch with Justin Thomas, and he saw what Cam Young was doing, and it was like, hey, let me see that thing. And it's worked out pretty dang good these last couple tournaments for him. So, look, maybe we're buying in a little too soon, but in this field, and I think we could say this about every single outright bet that we make this week, in this field with Ludvig Åberg as your favorite, I think this is a winnable tournament for a lot of guys out there. And if you're telling me JT is putting like he has these last couple tournaments, I think he's extremely live this week. So I bet him as well. I'm right there with you guys.
Yeah, I am as well. Kelly's got the profile pulled up if you're watching along. Really, the deal was for me is he's straightened out the driver a little bit as well. And like, that's, it's just, he lost in 6 of 8 and then kind of figured maybe something out there at the RBC. And is at least gaining a little bit off of the tee. With as good as he is everywhere else, I just need him to be in the green and off the tee, and then he can make it up with all the other stuff. And so, yes, I also am on Justin Thomas. I want to get ahead of this, and I think we're getting, like you said, Wes. I think we're getting the good version of JT now.
Yeah, I do as well. And I know the approach numbers don't leap out at you, but we know his pedigree. He's one of the best iron players in the world when he's on. So that's where I think you could ignore a little bit of the recent stats. I think he's a fit for this place. Also at 25-1, a little bit lower number, but I think the secret's out on him, despite the fact that he plummeted on Sunday at the PGA where he had a 75. He was in red figures on a tough course after 3 rounds. I played Rickie Fowler again. He had 3 straight top 10s going into a Ronimink, top 20 in putting, top 20 in strokes gained total, 6 here in 2023. So I guess it's kind of a FOMO where it's like when I don't bet him, he might win. So maybe it's a fear factor. I don't love the number, but Rickie, I think, is playing very well. And I think now that he's officially in that U.S. Open, that takes a little bit of relief off him because remember, he didn't make the Masters. So Rickie Fowler, 25-1. Ryo Hisatsune, 45-1. Since he missed the cut at the Sony, he's made 14 straight cuts, which has been a runner-up at the Farmers, top 10 at Pebble, top 10 at Phoenix, top 10 at the Bolero, T19 at Byron Nelson last week, 4th in accuracy, 10th tee to green, 10th in ball striking. Only 23 years old. He's been a model of consistency this season. So I'm going to keep betting this guy. And another guy that we mentioned, because we mentioned that Justin Thomas came back at the Arnold Palmer with that wrist surgery or that injury, the hip surgery. Well, a guy that came back from a wrist surgery is Sungjae Im, 50-1, who missed the cut there, and then he had 3 top 10s in the last 9 events, including 9th last week at the Byron Nelson, 7th in putting, also top 10 for scrambling. So Sungjae, 50-1. Also Pearson Coody at 50-1. 5th here in 2024, 16th here last year. Cooled off a bit from the early start of the season, but he does have 5 top 20s in the first 6 starts, and he's made 4 of his last 5 cuts. 3rd in the field for putting last week was Pearson Coody. Real quick here to finish it out, Max Grazerman at 60-1. Matt mentioned him earlier in the show. Rough start to 2026, but gotten progressively better. Was 14th at the PGA, 9th last week at the Nelson. Led the field in approach, number 1 in ball striking, and was tops near in tee to green. So Max Grazerman added to the card. And Matt was on Tony Finau last week. I'm going to join in the party this week at 67-1, which was at DraftKings earlier today. He had his best finish anywhere in over a year and he really struck the ball well. Fourth here in 2023, runner-up here in 2019, Tony Finau. And then the bomb that I have kind of near 100 to 1, 90 to 1 is Michael Kim, who was 16th here last year, 6th at Colonial in 2023. Drop in class like we were talking about. Guy's been playing all these signature events, right? And finishing 30th and 40th. Well, now he's dropping in class, and he's, not real long off the tee. You don't have to pull driver here as much, and I think that's going to help Michael Kim out a great deal this week.
Kelley, why don't we get started on you, and then when we come back here on the other side, we can round out the card. But what did you throw into the account?
Yeah, I did. I did stall. I didn't end up getting to the window with Michael Kim, Wes, but man, look at those putting numbers. That was really what stopped me at my tracks. So I usually expect the super awesome approach game from Michael Kim, and that's been up and down, but the putter has been locked in. So I spent a few minutes looking at him. That's for sure. I wanted to bring that up because that really jumped out to me, what he was doing putting wise. Okay, outrights. This is going to be pretty simple. I played Justin Thomas. I'm living kind of in the mid-range this week. I played Rickie Fowler. I'm right there with you, Wes. We've been betting a lot of Rickie this year. It's been a lot of placement markets. And yeah, I think probably a top 20 is probably the safer place to look for Fowler. But I'm going to say it again. This is a weak field, right? As far as win equity goes, I think we could easily see Rickie, if he's going to spot that he's actually going to win. I don't love it at these odds. I think for both him and Justin Thomas, ideally, I think they should be a little bit longer, but just the lack of pure winners that we have here that are above them on the odds board, I'm just not scared of. So I bet Rickie 25 to 1. I'm right there with you. And then I went back. Let's see, two guys that we have bet a lot. Not a lot of this year. One guy that we've bet a lot of this year, but one guy I know that Matt and I bet at the PGA that did not work out very well. I'm going right back to him, JJ Spaun. I'm going to give him another shot, 30 to 1. I think in the 30s, he's a good look this week. I just can't get over the ball striking numbers off the tee. Approach game is so back right now. The putter's just been dead. Yeah, talked about putter being important this week. Need the spike putter week from him for sure. He did finish T6 here last year, so he's shown good history on the course. And then outside that, he missed a cut at the PGA. That was bad. But T5 at the Truist, T14 at the Cadillac, T25 at the RBC Heritage, all signature events. He's put together some good finishes here recently. I think he could excel in a weaker field this week. And then last outright for me, 4 on the card this week, JT, Rickie Fowler, JJ Spaun. And then, guys, I know he doesn't have the pedigree of some of these other guys. I was a little shocked I was able to find Alex Smalley at long odds as I did. I got him at 40 to 1. I think anything in the mid-30s on him is a pretty damn good bet with how he's playing right now. He was my third highest rated golfer in the last 16 model. That went Ludvig, Rickie, Alex Smalley, by the way, is how that broke out over the last 16 rounds. 9th on approach, 3rd at greens regulation, 2nd with the putter. He birdies a lot. We've seen that. Finished T2 at the PGA. Obviously, it's been a ton of top 10, top 20 finishes. I won't go into all of them because if you've been listening to this podcast, you've listened to us bet Alex Smalley a whole lot this year. Wish he had better history here, but whatever, man. His form is so good right now. I don't think these odds match up at all. I really like Alex Smalley this week.
If you guys are watching, you saw a smirk from me. We will talk about my picks when we come back here on the other side. Welcome back to Long Shots, Matt, Wes, and Kelley. We just got Wes and Kelley's outrights. Kelley Bydlon, why don't you go ahead and keep it rolling here? You do have some placement market bets as well.
Yeah, added on, as usual, we should probably bring this up more, but I bought every one of those outrights a top 5 bet as well on, and then I went top 20 on Rickie. Well, I just erased like half my notes. That's cool. Command Z. Rickie Fowler. I did bet a top 20 on, brought that up. I think that's probably the smartest market to bet him in, but look, I think there's outright chances for him very much so this week with all these guys. So I do like Rickie top 20. Find that at plus 110, plus 115. You'll find that out there. Alex Smalley, I bet pretty big in that top 20 market. And then 2 other guys that I didn't mention before. Matt McCarty, added him. Really strong approach numbers his last 16 rounds. 7th on approach in the field. 36 with the putter. 2nd in birdie or better. 4 top 20 finishes for him. In the last 5, in past 5 events, did miss the cut at the PGA, but I'm gonna go with the top 20 play on him. You're gonna find that about plus 250. That's where I bet it at. And then another guy at plus 250, which I know myself and Matt Brown have bet too many times in the past, and I feel like it's always in this market, and I never freaking cash with him, but I'm going back because what do we need, fellas? We need approach play and a putter. And welcome Christian Bezuidenhout onto the freaking card for the first time this year. He rated out very highly for me. 10th at approach, 6th with the putter over the last 16 rounds, 8th in scrambling, kind of everything you're looking for here. And yes, I'm saying it with this tone because I bet this guy and never wins seemingly. But plus 250 on a top 20, I am going to Bez. He does have great history here, has T16, T17, T21, and T15 the last 4 times he's teed it up here.
Yeah, I
see Wes approving with the nod.
Yeah, because that's probably an ad. Well, that's probably going to be an ad for me, though. But you could even go a little bit more conservative, like top 30, top 40. If you have those available in your markets, you're still going to probably get a plus price at either of those. But like Kelley said, 16, 17, 21, 15. Last 4 years here. He doesn't have to pull out driver very much here, which is very good because he is all over the place off the tee.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. We found out just what a driver can do to someone who's really good everywhere else with our boy Eric Cole last week yet again. I mean, dude is just amazing everywhere else except he is just awful off the Kelley. You could tee off for him and then he would just go win tournaments. But like the dude is so horrific off the tee, man. Like it's unbelievable.
Poor guy.
All right. So we share Justin Thomas. I don't need to go there with that. And then I share one with each of you guys outside of that. I am on Alex Smalley. I am on Rio Takeda. So, like you said, Kelley, third in my model as well for Alex Smalley. I mean, and if you're getting him mid-30s, which I did not get him as good a number as you did, but I mean, you're getting him mid-30s. I mean, you just rarely get a guy who's third in your model in the mid-30s. It just doesn't happen very often. And like you said, you go in and you try to nitpick why you would not like him, and you can't really do it. I mean, you just can't really do it. He's been getting it done. And you look at this deal, if you're gaining off the tee, you're gaining on approach in far more than you're losing. The putter has been there for the last month and a half. Like, it's just everything that you want to see with a guy. And now, like you said, a weaker field as well, which is even better for us to go in and try to take advantage of. So I also have Smalley in there. Matt, and then for everything that Wes said about Hatsatane, he's going to keep it in the fairway. We showed you the stats earlier in the show. You keep it in the fairway, you score better at this course. And so really do like him from that aspect as well. Two more in the hopper for me. And this one's more of a gut deal than it is anything else, because I'm talking about guys that need to keep it in the fairway, and unfortunately Harry Hall doesn't do that very often. But
I've got Harry Hall hat on. Yes.
Yeah, despite the fact that I have put in good drives and stuff as much as I did, Harry Hall was still 18th in my model, which kind of lets you know where he is everywhere else. And maybe there's something getting found. The truest, he actually gained off the tee. He got cut at the PGA. The PGA is tough. It's a tough, whatever, but he was even off the tee. The last 2 tournaments, he is not losing like crazy off of the tee. And so typically a very good iron player, one of the better putters out there as well. So I'm going to try to maybe see if I can get ahead of Harry Hall finding something off the tee. And if he gets one of those giant red numbers like we have right there, he'll probably get cut. But I'm trying to get ahead of that. It looks like he might have found something here the last couple of outings. And then Wes, somebody that you have bet a ton, really showed up high in the model, and you dig in, there's really nothing not to like about our boy Sudarshan Yalamaraju. I mean, really nothing to hate about this dude. Yeah, the PGA, he got cut. It's a major. I mean, was that his first major he's ever played? And also it's probably the first. Yeah, he's coming from YouTube Golf. It's definitely the first major he's ever played. So yeah, first major he's ever played. Every other course he's had pretty good stats and pretty good outings. The win equity, I'm not 100% sure of, but I can tell you that the number attached to him is like 85-1. And so I'll take that on a dude that you can see has had some pretty good performances in this short time out on tour, a weaker field. and a course that I think really rewards what he does well. So outside of that one little, blip, but again, his first major, I'll give him a pass.
Yeah.
I think Sudarshan is a pretty interesting profile here.
And he's been okay in signature events, but I think he was like a top 20 down there in Miami. But he's been okay in these, but I think that's another guy I'm talking about, like dropping class. He certainly applies. When you see him in like the Valero or you see him in the Houston Open, you all of a sudden see those top 10 finishes or top 15 finishes. So you have a lot of guys like that in the mid range this week. And that's why I kind of spread it out a little bit, because I think the mid-range, even though this field is a little bit down, I think the mid-range a lot more attractive this week than it's been in previous weeks.
Honestly, this is one of those, and I hadn't made plans on doing it tomorrow. I don't know. This is it seems like an awesome DFS week, right? Because you're able to get all of those guys like you're talking about, Wes, in the mid-range and make a team out of all of these guys that I think have a lot of upside, right? And
take a quick drive south of the border to Arizona this week.
You could make teams like Ludvig's going to be so incredibly you could make a bunch of teams that just fade Ludvig and hope that he finishes 10th or something like that. And if he finishes 10th, then you're going to be super, super live with a bunch of guys that I think can go and have a good showing here at this one. Some other guys that looked good in the model to me, but I just can't bet everybody. Kelley, JJ Spaun looked really good in the model to me. Russell Henley modeled pretty highly, though. I looked into his profile. I just didn't like especially certainly not at the number. Rickie Fowler definitely modeled well for me as well. Jackson Suber, probably because I did a little bit more recent model. I wanted to see who was kind of coming in hot, is somebody who modeled well for me as well, as you're starting to make your making some of those DFS lineups and things like that. And let's see, anybody else that you might want to throw in there? Austin Eckroat was shockingly a little bit higher in my model, despite the fact that the results necessarily haven't been all there, but the model really liked him from a skill set standpoint.
Sure, I sure fell in love with him last week. That worked out well.
I had him as well. I'll add one here that I think might be good for a placement market. Mark Hubbard, who you maybe could play down. And he's not a very long hitter, but you don't have to be here. He's gained almost 17 strokes on approach over his last two events, by the way. He was runner-up to Snedeker at Myrtle Beach, 31st last week at the Nelson. So this guy, I think top 30, top 40 could be a good placement market. Maybe could be one of those bombs in the 100-to-1 range that'll certainly contend on Sunday. We kind of see it here every year.
Yeah, the similar fashion, the one that I played in a only matchup for me, Tom Hoge. Went back to old Hoge this week over Mackenzie Hughes. And same sort of thing. This has not been Tom Hoge's normal stat profile, but those approach numbers over the past couple events. Okay, catching my eye, Tom Hoge. I got you.
And he's a Horned Frog, by the way. He's a TCU graduate, so he has played here a lot. You look at his finishes, they should be better, but this is a course that should fit in.
Yeah,
because he's Mr. Approach.
Will Hill's favorite golfer.
Yes.
Yeah,
mine a few years ago when I hit him at Pebble Beach. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a super interesting tournament. Should be a good one to watch. Should be a fun one to watch. And Ludvig, rightful favorite. I'm not going to say don't bet him. If you're doing that, I think you kind of got to just go one bullet and say that he's going to win it, and then move on from there. You can't really bet too many people down there below 10-1 or something like that. But if I miss out on Ludvig this week at 980 or whatever, or something like that, then so be it.
I played him at -121 in the top Nordic market.
There you go.
So I am in on Ludvig, but
guys, if you haven't done so already, hit those subscribe buttons. We do appreciate you guys tuning in. Of course, everything we do will be over at VSiN.com. You can become a VSiN Pro subscriber. VSiN.com/subscribe. $199 for 14 months. For Wes, for Kelley, I'm Matt. Good luck on all your Charles Schwab bets.
Heading into spring and summer is a real reset season for me and for many of us who want to look and feel our best. Prolon's 5-day program is one of my favorite ways to do it, designed to support your body at a deeper level while still being simple to follow. If you're ready for a reset, this is a great place to start. Visit prolonlife.com/fieldswell for 15% off and a $40 bonus. That's Prolon, PROLON, life, LIFE.com/fieldswell.